And because Africa has been in the hands of people who have created an image of Africa that's negative and hateful. And it has been hateful to us. We haven't wanted to identify with it. But now that Africa is getting independent and in a position to create its own image, and it's a positive image, those of us in the West look at the African image and see how positive it is. We begin to identify with it. We become proud of Africa, and we become proud of our African blood, our African heritage.
Be proud of our heritage. Somebody said earlier tonight, we don't have anything to be ashamed of. Somebody told a lie one day.
It was the teaching of Marcus Garvey, Cameron Nicholas, glory of kings, divine eyes to last night and keep the guy with the blue eyes for yourself. Cause people without a vision perish like suicide. You tell me it's not about color, still you refuse to take the picture off the wall. Oh, baby, all you do is trick the brothers, keep them confused. They don't know who to call on in this identical war. And you tell me of a paradise in the sky, but that's a lie. And you tell me I was born in sin and shaped in iniquity when love created I. Look how many prophets tried to open our eyes. You can't fool me. No, no. Look how they're treating us. This new millennium slavery. I see them hiding in chains and still beating us daily. And now we mentally poison to fight with black skin. And a bleaching at the ending, far out and far in. Sin, you tell me it's not about color, still you refuse to take the images out to pose. I know that's not how we look, Kush. Don't take offense when we show black power. It carries us through. We've been abused. Put yourself in my shoes. And you're taking me up a paradise in the sky. But that's a lie. Don't tell me I was born in sin and shaped in iniquity. But love created I. Look how many prophets tried to open our eyes. You can't fool me.
Then why would you want to go with Ethiopia?
Well, I feel it's my duty to give my profession and, if necessary, my life in the cause of Ethiopia.
And I desire and be happy to die on the defense of entire Africa, including Abyssinia.
Look how they're treating us. This new millennium slavery. I see them hiding in chains and still beating us daily. And now we mentally poison to fight with our skin. And bleaching at the looting, far out and far in. Sin, you tell me it's not about color, still you refuse to take the picture off the wall. Oh, all you do is trick the brothers, keep them confused. They don't know who to call on in this spiritual war. So don't tell me of a paradise in the sky, 'cause that's a lie. And you tell me I was born in sin and shaped in iniquity. Love created I and I. Look how many prophets tried to open our
Somebody
eyes.
told a lie.
You can't fool me.
They couched it in language. They made everything black, ugly, and evil. Look in your dictionary and see the synonym for the word black. It's always something degrading and low and sinister. Look at the word white, it's always something pure. But I'm going to get the language right tonight. I want to get the language so right that everybody here will cry, yes, I'm black, I'm proud of it, I'm black and beautiful.
Listen to the words. Now we must teach. Like I always say, black is not a nationality. Yes, black is beautiful. And I'm not here from no religious perspective. That's not my cause. I know who I am. I challenge you to know who you are. And what we're here to do, is be scholars and do peer-reviewed research and understand the esoteric and the esoteric. I want our brothers and sisters to understand the metaphysics of what we're talking about. Man-made religion is here to destroy us and not to bring us together. And a lot of us, we take things from a connotated perspective and from a judgmental perspective because that's how we were brought up. But I'm here to challenge you, to show you that things were hidden, to show you that it's a language, to challenge you to research, to be a philosopher, to be a theosophist. This is what this is all about, family. It's nothing outside yourself. You're getting connotated. You're getting caught up in linguistic apartheid. We're not doing geographical location from historical and biblical perspective. Historically. When I tell brothers historically, genetically, there's not a such thing as an Arab. There's not a such thing as a Mexican or a Latino. You are indigenous to the land. When I tell brothers and sisters to do the research, not only from, these are from scholars from all perspectives. The color has nothing to do with it. You research a book called The Arab. I started pulling my books out because I said, man, I have degrees. I have adapt degrees and I have world degrees. So I'm not here from no religious perspective, but I'm here to challenge you, to show you that this is all about the inside of you, to show you the mysteries in the biblical text, to show you what it's all about. So before we even get into this, I want to give you just the topics and the subtopics. We're going to get into our prayer. I'm not going to touch on it too much. I want you to research this because I challenge you. The first thing I tell brothers and sisters, your black skin is not a curse. That's a trick of the biblical Bible. There's no way your black skin is a curse. No way, family. If you research the biblical text, and I want you to think for a minute, when the scripture says he put his hand in his bosom, and he pulled out, and he put it in, and it was white, and he pulled it back out a second time, it became back the color of his skin. So those are things you have to understand when it talks about leprosy in the Bible and who was turned to leprosy. So you have to follow the words in the language. You can get caught up in mistranslation. You can get caught up in that. You have to have all the books, the old books. You have to have the Nag Hammadiyyas. You have to have the Nag Hammadiyyas, the Pastra, the old Apocrypha, the New Testament Apocrypha, to land the books of Noah. All these is things that you can line up. And then when I talk about in science and in our Moorish masonry, when I say what's above is below, this is all science when I talk about the constellation and the stars. Everything in the biblical scriptures, they made esoteric, which is inside, they made it out. They made it exoteric. When I talk about the 12 ladders in our Moorish masonry, in our Moorish Quran, you have to explain both so you can know how to heal yourself. So we're not here from no religious perspective, Moors. I want us to understand that. Moor does not mean no al-Islam or nothing. We understand all the laws and the prophets. Buddha, Confucius. They say Jesus, which is Yahshua. Muhammad. We have to understand this. That's what this science and craftsmanship is all about. If brothers understand this science, when they be going around lying to brothers, when the European masonry, 32, 30 degrees, lower level. Once they become higher than that, they become shrine. They start practicing al-Islam. not Moorish science. I hope we know the difference. But if not, you should study it. So let's dig into it. But the subtopic I'm going to touch on is the black man is the father of civilization, proven by biblical history. And when I say black, we can't be afraid of that word black. We're not using it in a proper context. The context when I'm talking about 666, 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, carbon is black. When I say if the carbon doesn't match the pen, you don't change the carbon dating, you change the pen. And like I said, my master's degree is in ancient history and biblical history. So as you start doing first century history, you start revealing where the pen was changed. You can't change the carbon dating, you change the pen. I show people how the pen was changed in all religious books. The pen was changed all the different areas through the Renaissance, through the great ages of man, all through the dispensations. Things were changed. When you call it the Dark Ages and the medieval times, they don't teach that in school. I did lectures on all over college campuses. I have a master's from Grand Canyon University. So I challenge brothers and sisters to study. So I challenge people to study. I'm going to get right to it, my brother. But the subtopic is the black man is the father of civilization. The closer you get to the sun is black. Everything has melanin. So we're not talking about color, Morris. I hope we understand that. We got to everything that has life that's on this earth plane has carbon, which is melanin. It's just some has more. And we have to understand when we talk about the stars and the constellation, what matches. We're getting it twisted. When brothers be quoting Zachariah Stitch and that Anunnaki, that's all false doctrine. You have to do way more research, and we take it farther than our ego. Our ego is the devil, is our lower self. When we're trying to prove a point, I'm not here to prove a point. What I'm here to do is challenge brothers and sisters to be philosophers, to study and use your hippocampus so you can make a conscious decision to see what this is all about. To be enlightened and not to fall for the trick of believing a lie. That's what I'm telling you. So we're going to talk about the Baphomet. It's not the devil or evil. And we're going to talk about who is Lucifer. And I want you to get your pens because this is school, man. We're here to remove all falseness. When I tell brothers and sisters, everything that was written was made to seem like everything about you was evil. Even I have all biblical texts, even in the Mormon Bible, they tell you the son of Satan. You have to connect the dots. You have to connect the dots, Morris. When you start looking at history and Greek history, you be like, wait a minute, man, they ain't talking about nothing evil. We talk about Pan, which is the Baphomet, which Alicia Levi stolen from the Greek god. Hold on, from the river Nile god. Let me show you. Hold on, before you go on, I need to grab this book because this is going to be somewhere I'm going to be talking on about this lecture. Let me find it. I thought I brought it out because I need to make emphasis on this book. And I need to show the picture of it. So please bear with me. I totally forgot, family. Hold on 1 second, please, family. Here we go, right here. All right, I got the book. So let's dig, man. This is going to be good. This is school. We had a good day of school today. It was amazing. So, like, a lot of brothers and sisters have been asking, what about our school? We have a real school. It's called the Burning Bush Tabernacle Science Temple and School. We're out here in Arizona. We meet at the YMCA. I have online students. We print ID cards for our online students. We have literature. We have syllabus, just like a real school. I'm a Moor. And I show other brothers, if they want to be a Moor, how to get nationalized to be part of the Moorish Science Temple. But I'm also a teacher and a scholar. I teach all doctrines. I teach history. I teach metaphysics. I teach health and nutrition. I'm a trainer. And nothing I'm saying, these are the things that I do out here in Arizona. I do personal training with my people, with my team. We do t-shirt printing out here in our office. So it's just a lot of things that we do to bring people together. You know what I mean? I don't even want to get off topic. Let's finish, man. Because I can go on and on about why we're not striving to be who we are. Because we think our job and we think we're Christians. And not knowing who we are historically. And when I say more, brothers be thinking some Arab stuff. And I say, man, Arab, that's not a nationality. When I show you the research in my next lecture, I'm going to show you. From their pen. It shows you. It's not a such thing. The Arab is you. I promise you. I'm going to show you even about the book from Asar, about how the Indians are part of the tribe of Israel. Their pen, not me. So let's dig into this. I'm going to give our divine warning. I'm going to give my books if anyone want to order. And we're going to jump into this science. Prophet warns all Muslims, governors ordered to read, proclaim at each meeting, January 15, 1929. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical agitating speeches while at work or in the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. My 2 cents, Moors, health and wealth. Because that's what I'm about. We have to take it to the next level. Brothers gravitate to one thing, and I'm like, that don't even make sense. You acting like you gang banging. That's just like you dissing, how can I say, John Henry Clark, and say you following Amos Wilson or something. No, we obey all the laws and the prophets. We have to understand what this science is about, man. But when these principles are violated, justice must take its course. Any member who or group of members who hold feelings toward the temple or the prophet, that's esoteric and exoteric. Because we follow no man Moors. That's esoteric and exoteric. But if somebody brought something, and when Moors be saying, oh, this and that, well, you should have the gospel or the book. You should have the history. When I be talking about science and everything and about our Moorish masonry, it's right in our Moorish Quran. It's right in here. It's right in the book. And I'm going to touch on that and we're going to finish. Or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah. That's nothing outside yourself. In Moorish science, when I say Allah, and if anybody say anything different, that's not Moorish science. Allah is manifestation of man. Arm, leg, arm, head. Just like the so-called Star of David, the pentagram. That's arm, leg, arm, head. That's representing life for their unjust deeds. When I say Islam, I'm talking about I, self, law, and master. And if anybody tell you anything different, they lying to you. This is all about you. Being a Moor has nothing to do with nothing outside yourself. That's why when I talk historicalness, when I talk about Zoroastrianism, when the Moors be like, what's that? I said, Moors not talking history. The farther you go, it's a connection. Sufism, Islamism, it's all a connection. If any more telling you anything different, they lying. They trying to separate you. They're not telling you. Our diet, our Moorish diet is biblical. That's the Hebrew diet. We so far thinking that we got twisted, man. Our perspective is wrong. Our brain is atrophying. We've been caught up in a European Masonic trick. What? Believing a lie. I'm telling you, man. All true Moors will and must obey the laws that's laid down to them by our prophet. Being a Moor ain't had nothing to do with outside the law. If they lose confidence in the prophet, they should turn in their card, button, cease wearing our turban and our fez, and return to the state where he found us. This is a holy and divine movement. This holy and divine, Moors, when I say holy and divine, the spiritual is first. But the problem with most of us, we're operating on the physical, not understanding the spiritual, not understanding the metaphysics of what we're talking about. That's why we disconnected. That's why our Metatron or our melanin is not connected, Moors. Because you think everything is a joke. I promise you. The prophet, therefore, is sending out divine pleas to all Moorish Americans that we do our best in protecting the temple. If the temple ain't right, correct it. But this is about you. I mean, look at Shakespeare. Who did Shakespeare write about? Othello the Moor. Man, I can go get the 1599 Geneva Bible. All in Jeremiah, everywhere where it says African, Ethiopian, it says Moor. But then you let somebody tell you that what somebody created after time, misnomers, is your identification. They did that because it was a strip. George Washington's Quran. I have all the books. I tell you, they practiced Islam. They were Masons. That's why they call it the joke of Masonry. But we so caught up in jokes and not being taught by our teachers. So, I'm going to touch on a little bit about what I was saying biblically, and I want you to get your pens because you letting people connotate you and got you believing in things that's not true when they're not really breaking down the words and the language. We can break all this stuff down. I show you in the hieroglyph, the Egyptian alphabet, the YHWH is there. I show you in the Silent Brotherhood of the East, it's all there. The Hebrew God is the Logos. People just lying to you because it just, maybe their wisdom is not far enough. And if we don't admit that, then that's our ego. I'm not all-knowing, but I know what I do, and I love what I do, and I have a specific practice. But if you got your pens, the Bible does give account of the origin of mankind. It's the only book that contains accurate of Torah civilization, and it's indisputable. It's authentic record of man, because it's firsthand, not a copy of something else or scientific literary review. And you got to understand the context of what I'm saying, more. Don't remove your feelings and get into researching and research what I'm saying. But the black man, the Asiatic man, has been misrepresented by prejudiced historians and lecturers. Now, this was taught, and this was quoted, and I want you to research it, that Ham, the so-called father of the black man, was cursed by his father who? Noah. Now Moorish. In regard to the incident, let's go biblical clarity. When I tell you this, we have to build bridges. We don't destroy anything. We show who we are all through history, all through their books. That's what I show you when the brothers, I can show you who you are all through history books, all over ancient books. A lot of people that did our history didn't speak English, like Sheikh Anadia. A lot of his stuff had to be interpreted by John Henry Clark. The research been done already, man. You just getting connotated. But they says that Ham, the father of the black civilization per se, was cursed by his father Noah. So in regard to the incident, this biblical record. If you're not blind with prejudice, family, you can take the scripture for record. You can be convinced that the book of Genesis, the 9th chapter from the 20th to the 27th verse, inclusive. It says that Noah did not, for he could not curse Ham, although he did in an intoxication fit. When we do things, when I hear Negro, black, and colors talk about all the Moors did this, man, my brother was killed by a black person. One of my childhood friends' brother killed him. So what you talking about? We ain't talking about nothing. You see how we do? And we pick and choose, and I say, what's happening right now? Brothers killing brothers. Family killing family. This ain't nothing new. So yeah, a person can put a curse on somebody when you drunk or something and pronounce a curse on Canaan, the son of Ham. But then, think about that. Canaan was never inconvenienced by the curse of Noah, right? This is how we correct these false teachers when they don't want to speak on the genealogy of Yahshua the Messiah, because it connects all the Canaanite blood. And then you see the perspective of the pen. If you research, and I want you to research where it says the Canaanite can never enter the kingdom of God. And you see, you start connecting the dots. Why? Why was it never a curse? Because he was the father of 7 prosperous nations, right? See, I connect the 7. I do this. The 7 is connected to science. The circle in a circle. The circle in a circle. When I break out my chart, the chart's over there somewhere. That'll be next lecture. But anyway, but he never was cursed. He had 7 nations, Moors, right? Right? The Canaanites, the Phoenicians, the Sidonians. You see how we connect the dots? When a person pick and choose, I say, man, you missing the whole synchronicity. The Sidonians sprang from Sidon, who was the first son of Canaan, according to Genesis, the 10th chapter, the 15th verse. These same Sidonians are the men descended from the so-called black men. When I'm saying, follow the context of what I'm saying. Whom Solomon ordered Hiram of Tyre to engage the skill, hewing, and designing of the timber work of Solomon's temple. Let me take my jacket off. And we just quoting, we got to quote what was written to prove certain things. When I say when a person say, hey, this and that, and it's not talking about you, I'll use your pen to show you exactly where we stand from a scholarly perspective. But the Sidonians sprang from Sidon, who was the first son of Canaan, according to Genesis, the 10th chapter, the 15th verse. I told you that the Sidonians, Solomon ordered to build the temple work of the temple, declaring that these Sidonians, black men, Asiatic men, craftsmen, were the only men possessed with anywhere near the sufficient skills to take charge of successfully completing the artistic timber work of his temple. I mean, if we're going to use the book, that's 1 Kings, the 5th chapter, the 6th verse, speaks very plainly of that fact. 1 Kings, the 5th chapter, the 6th verse. Write this down. We in school. We ain't here for no religious perspective, man. If we're going to be philosophers, that's what we're here for. And then we apply this wisdom in life and we win. But we arguing over religious perspective and we're not coming together. And that's the problem. Because you don't know who you are. Solomon knew, if we're going to use these scriptures, that the black man was superior, not inferior. If we're going to use the biblical scriptures. Just like when I tell brothers, get the Jewish encyclopedia. You don't have to make no accusations, or you don't have to accuse nobody. Research what they say, what the pen says. Go on my page and see the lecture. I give you the research. You don't have to argue. The pen tells you. In their biblical scriptures, what do it say? He married Pharaoh's daughter. 1 Kings, 3rd chapter, 1st verse, 7th chapter, 8th verse. Also the 9th chapter, the 16th verse. Solomon's wife could have been as darker as he was. Right? Moors. Don't we know, check this out. In history, Moors. In history, it shows that Egypt had 2 full-blooded Ethiopian pharaohs just before and during the reign of Solomon. According to their pen. According to their pen. According to Herodotus, the names of the 2 Ethiopians were Sabaco, S-A-B-A-C-O, or Sebikos, S-E-B-I-C-H-O-S, according to their pen. Or Cetos, S-E-T-H-O-S. I'm going to show you how you get caught up in religious dogma, how you think Satan is some evil stuff, when you don't know all around the world the Mediterranean God. I'm going to show you, I'm going to connect it. I'm going to connect all the dots. We got 30 more minutes. This is school. So if you're going to use their scriptures, Solomon surely got an Ethiopian or Negro or black, a woman for a wife. So this naturally increased the proportion of Negro blood in the veins of the future king of the Jews. When you do genetic, when you research the Igbo and the Igbo, you don't have to argue. I'm talking about scholarly research. Research the Igbo. Research the Igbo. Their pen. History. Scholarly research. Remove the ego. I mean, it's just what it is. The Bible does not show that God, nobody ever turned a black man to disgrace him for his sins or anything else. But the biblical scripture does show that God, that manifestation or that sustainability, that power did turn a man per se. And we talk about their scriptures. Don't get caught up. We're dissecting this book. But the scripture said it did turn the white man to disgrace him because of, and said that his seed would be likewise forever. You can disagree with it or not. That's okay. But if you carefully look at the 5th chapter of the 2nd Kings, the 25th, the 26th, the 27th verse, many of our highly civilized brethren whose ancient ancestors disgraced them. They suffer. They suffer this nausea. And we become cowardly, you know? It's so much been done to the Asiatic, to the Moor. I'm telling you, man, all through history, this stuff was written about. Just like when you research the ancient ones, how they gave all the land back, well, not all of it, about 90 acres back to the Moors. How when I do the research, how the Louisiana purchased that, it didn't purchase nothing. This is history that I've done. You know, when you research the doctrine of discovery and what's that all about, you start understanding things and seeing history for it is. When I talk about the real cause of the Civil War, the Indian of the Western Hemisphere, these books that cost millions of dollars, and these are the books that I have. A lot of stuff is at the Philosophical Society Library, and I'm a member of there. They only let certain people in. Well, certain people saw my lectures and they came to this is real. Most of my lectures are on college campuses, so they see it. I have books, man. They have a big Buddha there, and they keep a lot of books about heaven and hell under that big old Buddha. And they only let certain people research them books. The Philosophical Society in Las Vegas. In Los Angeles. I think it's on, what is it? What's the street? Felix? I forget the street. But it's a lot of stuff that I'm going to reveal. You know? But anyway, yeah. You have to understand that. When it talks about that, it's a joke. It claims that the nigger is a beast. You know? Come on, man. The scriptures honored the so-called Asiatic man, the black man, they like to say, by allowing some of that blood to flow in the veins of his son, Yahshua. which they claim as Jesus, to wash up the breadcrumbs. Yes, that Jesus, that Yahshua would in America today be classed a Negro. It's just from their pen, from the authority of the biblical text. This ain't me. If you follow in the scriptures, listen to this. According to which Jesus was born out of the tribe of what, Morris? Out of the tribe of what? Judah. If you are more, you nationalize your paperwork, your amnesty of oath, our dispensation papers, what did it tell us? We're from the tribe of Judah, lineage of David. Come on, y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to pull all that out. You can go on my lectures. I pull all the stuff out and show you. Judah had only 5 children, and they were males, according to their pen. 1 Chronicles, 2nd chapter, and the 4th verse. 3 by his first wife, and 2 by his second wife, right? This their pen. 1 Chronicles, 2nd chapter, 3rd and the 4th verse. And both of his wives were descendants of who? Canaan. A what? A black man, an Asiatic, who was the son of who? Ham. Research Genesis, the 10th chapter, the 6th verse. Same me. That's why they're going to talk about the genealogy of Yahshua the Messiah when we talk about the esoteric of the biblical text. That's why they don't talk about Tamar, Judah's wife. Bore him 2 of these sons whose name were P-H-R-E-S, which is Peres, and Zerah, Z-A-R-A-H, according to their pen. What? According to their pen. What? 1 Chronicles, 2nd chapter, and the 4th verse. Right? These 2 names appear in genealogy of Jesus, which is Yahshua the Messiah. In the book of Matthew, 1st chapter, the 3rd verse. See, we taking stuff out of context when we don't get the essence. When I talk about what's sustainability, I see Moors arguing about a cross. I say, Moors, that's science behind that. You ain't looking at the exo. That's sustainability. What's sustainability? That F-E-A-R, fire, earth, air, river, which is the water. It's a science to this. I connect it all. We get caught up in religious dogma. But in the genealogy of Jesus, which is Yahshua the Messiah in the book of Matthew, if they're talking about the Hebrew God, I'm going to break things down. That's why, man, a lot of Jews, when they celebrate the Sabbath, that come from something else. That's the Hebrew God, Yahshua. That's why I call it Sabbath. Man, and everybody, if you know history, you know what I'm talking about. But researching in the 1st chapter, the 3rd verse in Matthew. So it's troubling to see that Judah, of whom Christ was to come, and even in metaphysics, Christ, that crest, we got to understand metaphysics. But we proving who we are with their pen. Even in the Bible, I don't care which one you get. You look in the front, it's a map. It's a map of what? The continent of Africa. And what else? You got 2 continents. It's too simple. Get the Holy Name Bible and read the preface. Read the preface. That's why in the preface of the Holy Name Bible, it tells you not to pray to God. Or when preachers be saying G-A-W-D, because that's the Phoenician God. And in the Hebrews, they were praying to the Hebrew God, the Messiah, somebody from amongst your people. That's why in Acts chapter 24 and 5, it says, this pestilent fellow, the ringleader of the Nazarenes. He's talking about tribal people. That's why in the biblical text, it says it's many gods, Moors. In the Holy Name Bible. Get a Holy Name Bible and read the preface of the Holy Name Bible. And then start connecting dots right there. Most of us have the King James Bible. We must get the Holy Name Bible, get the God Name Bible. When I tell you there's 99 names of Allah, depending on the name you use. If you go to Egypt, everybody's not under Al-Islam. Allah is just an Arabic name for God. But in the biblical scripts, you say Yahweh this, Yahweh Nisi, Yahweh that, blah, blah, blah. But you must connect the dots. But in the Holy Name Bible, it breaks things down from a scholarly perspective about name. You know, King James. Like I said, I'm not here to do any religious dog. There's so many books before the King James Version Bible. The Apocrypha was in the Old Testament Apocrypha, the New Testament Apocrypha, the Book of Noah, the Nag Hammadi, all those books went with it. It's a lot of stuff that's missing. The Hebrew books is missing. That's why when you get a Bible, look at it, it says interpretation. That's why I tell brothers, you have to research the words. Or the version, King James Version. If it's a version, that means it's a version of something else. So if it's a version of a version, you got a good copy of a copy. You must get into the older to the older. And once you get there, you're like, okay, you start figuring out like this is a copy of something else. This word comes from something else. That's why when I say we remove the religious dogma, when I talk about Serapis Christos, when I talk about history, and the reason why we caught up in religious dogma, because we don't connect history. When Serapis Christos, when Alexander the Greek invaded Egypt, he wanted a pharaoh. They created Serapis Christos, which is Jesus. But that's a whole nother story. I want you to research that. You don't have to believe nothing I say. I want you to research. You don't have to believe nothing I say. Even in the biblical scripture, Moors, when it's talk about Judah, of whom Christ was to come in their scriptures, started out by presenting the world with children of Canaanite women, whom were Hamite descents. This from their pen. Now, Virgin Mary, their pen, of whom Christ was born, was beyond all doubt a woman out of what? The tribe of Judah. If you research the Bible, if you go to church and you go in a Bible study, I hope you research the Bible instead of just getting that pamphlet that they print out every year by the Catholic diocese. I'm talking about scholarship, man. I'm not here to argue with anyone. And every Bible reference proclaims that Jesus, which is Yahshua, because there never was a J in the Hebrew dialect, I hope we understand that, was to spring from the tribe of what? Judah. Reading the Bible. Genesis 49 and 10. Hebrews 7 and 14. Revelation, the 5th chapter, Revelation 5 and 5. Even in Paul, in Romans 1 through 3, it tells that Jesus was of the seed of David according to the flesh. David is the 10th man named in a name from Judah in the genealogy of Jesus, which is Yahshua the Messiah. Matthew, the 1st chapter, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th verse. Add to this, this David to this great-great-grandfather of Booz, B-O-O-Z. We're talking about their pen. Was born from the woman Rahab, who was a direct descendant of who? Ham. That's according to Matthew, the 1st chapter, the 5th verse. You don't got to research me. Just connect the dots. This also shows that David, one of God's, per se, greatest soldiers, was one of the most successful, led his people, right? And had what? That blood in his veins. That so-called Negro blood in his veins. I'm going to show you how it's going to connect everything about you as evil when I talk about the duality. We finna dig, man. Bible history is full of honors of Asiatic and black men. Jethro the Ethiopian, or the Negro father-in-law of Moses, who was the author who first employed that which is today our judicial systems, which come from what? The Mayat. I mean, it's so much stuff we connect. We get out our feelings and our ego. Twisted and reversed to meet the changing conditions of civilization and what I call pseudo-academia. When I tell brothers and sisters, I have 2 master's degrees from the university, and I'm getting a PhD in Indigenous People Law and Policy. I speak like this on college campus. All the history is there. And you prove yourself all through history. Nothing they can say. They don't have to like your candor, but you can prove, like Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, they weren't the greatest thinkers of the world. I promise you, I proved that. Research. All opinion. Even in Exodus 18, the 18th chapter, tells of Jethro's visit to Moses and how he gave Moses the foundation of what is today the graded courts for pronouncing judgments. This in their text. Again, Moses, the Hebrew emancipator, was named by a black woman, an Asiatic, Pharaoh's daughter. This pertaining to the scriptures. She said she called him Moses because she drew him out of the water, right? Exodus 2 and 10. And besides, Asiatic men educated Moses. If you research the pen, at any rate, he received what education he had from schools of Asiatic people in Egypt. Acts, the 7th and 22nd verse. Research it. It tells you. What you think Mizraim is in the biblical text? That's Egypt. When I tell brothers, I don't care about your 32 and 33 degrees. I have 99 degrees from ancient Memphis and Mizraim. Your 32 and 33 degrees is just a level above freezing. That's no science. That's a snowman. That's only man. That's only material wisdom. That's ego. Where the other part? I'm telling you, man. We're going around this and stuff and not connecting the dots. It's there for you. That's one of the Masonic tricks of the Europeans, to put it right in your face. It's nothing remarkable about our brothers and sisters, man. In antiquity, it points to Memphis and Babylon as the fount of human wisdom. We don't even connect this stuff. We get the distance. We got to understand, if you're ignorant of history, I don't care what you like, the last name, what these 2 places did. That's what the science was taught. No science came from the West. All science came from the East. All science, Angelo Solomon, one of the first Moorish masons. All the science come from Moorish masonry. You can go to Egypt and research King Menkaure. That's how I know when brothers be dissing masonry and Egyptian history. They never travel. They never been outside. You reading false history. Research King Menkaure and see all the science there that the European masonry stole. Moorish science is what we teach for Americans. Moorish Americans. It's a difference. I'm telling you, man, this stuff been hidden from you. And others been using it and been winning. All the so-called sages, all the so-called Coptics, Anna Blavatsky, all them Europeans were taught by Moors. I have all their books. They tell you they were taught by Moors. Period. Some of my other books, I got so many books written by Europeans talked about Noble Drew Ali, the Secret Drift. Research the Secret Drift. I'm telling you, it speaks of it. This man was hidden in history. You don't have to believe me. Early queen of Egypt, whether descendant of Ethiopian or Negro race. It's so much. When we talk about who we know, we don't even know our religion. We don't even understand about Santeria. We don't even understand about so many different things that we don't understand. Man, Moorish, man, we've been here forever, man. I mean, people have been here forever. I'm not going to get into a debate over nothing like that, but I mean, people have been here forever, man, and we just have to put things in the right perspective, man. That's all. So let's get into this teaching. I'm done. I got 20 more minutes. I got 20 more minutes, and I'm done. I'm going to give you this wisdom. And you can research it for yourself. I'm not here to argue with nobody. So, family, what we're going to find out is that a lot of things that we were told is not really factual. A lot of things in the biblical text that we may think was real is not real. Like for instance, and I hope you have your pens. When I speak of this here, this is transcendental magic. This is what Eliseus Levi connotated. And we look at, when I tell people it's signs and symbols of the primordial man, the secret wisdom of Moorish science, it's so much written that we got to know that this is all about you. This is not evil. It represents so much. I'm telling you, man. Researching your biblical scriptures. Research 1 Peter 5 and 8. Research Revelation 5 and 5. Luke 10 and 18. I'm going to connect dots, man. This so-called figure that a lot of people want to say evil, the horns of Hathor. Those horns of Hathor, if you look close, it has dreadlocks, man. I'm telling you, that white, that ain't pertaining to no white or black. That's pertaining to milk. That's pertaining to the secretion. Look at the kundalini in the middle. That's to raise you up to godhood. We're talking about signs and symbols. This is an esoteric teaching, family. Nothing to do with underground or the devil. That's why in science, man, when we look at the Awasis, when you start researching like those European so-called Masons with that pseudoscience like Aleister Crowley and all those pseudoscientists like eugenics, all that bull crap, they stole your science, reversed it. I'm telling you. I'm telling you, man. I promise you. We can stuff so twisted up. Don't you know this is Aset? This is Osiris. This is Tahuti. In the biblical scriptures, when you research 666, that's 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. But beast, that's duality. That's the male. In the biblical scriptures, everything black is evil. Don't you know that? That's why they say your black skin is a curse. Man, y'all tripping, man. We finna break this science down, man. I'm not here for no religious perspective, but I want you to research. Get your pens, get your papers. Let's dig. Cause we gonna dig. First, I'm gonna talk about who is Lucifer pertaining to the biblical scripture, and then we're gonna talk about the Baphomet, and then I'm done. We getting caught up in religious dogma, man. Moors telling you not to deal with the spiritual. Moors want you to run in court, and they having you do something they don't do. And only way you gonna understand law is study law. They don't know real law. They go on and thinking there's some Moorish law. Ain't no Moorish law. You go to court. They talk about, oh, my name, this in cash. I'm finna get some bills took off. I say, Moor, you showed up to court. What you mean, Moor? You just proven consent. What you mean? bruh, you here. So arguing your name in caps, it has nothing to do with nothing. Law. But who am I? That's why when I say when I see Moors getting in trouble, see who they're getting attorneys. They're not getting how can I say a representative. I break all this down when we talk about practicing law. And shit right there. I'm talking about precedent in law cases. That's how brothers get in trouble. They talk all that stuff, then they go get European lawyers, and they don't know science. They don't because they don't know law. They don't know precedent in cases. They're going with some old science. When I talk about maritime, when I talk about the courts, man, the courts is on maritime. That's why the UCCs, all of them, we don't use that no more. I'm telling you. They don't tell you about the black robes when we graduate, why robes are black, that represents, it's so much metaphysics to this. And we think it's some awesome white man stuff. You know? It's sad, man. It's sad, man. So if we're gonna be thinking that we're gonna prove a point, we're wrong, man. We're wrong. We're wrong, man. What you say, bro? I know some people do it, and that's what it is, man. But anyway, but we have to understand when people say star stuff and stardust, that's what we're made of. That's what the soul below is above. That's why when I talk about every constellation have 3 deacons, that's why the metaphysics, everything has to match what's on the ground. Just like when you want to measure the ceiling and you don't have a ladder or nothing, what do? You measure the ground because what's above has to match below. That's the cosmos. That's the heavens as the above. So we getting things out of context. When you look in your biblical scriptures, man, Lucifer, the son of the morning star, right? Is it he who bears the light and which is splendors, intolerance, it blinds, is feeble? Isn't that what the biblical scripture says? Lucifer represents the individual intellect and will rebel against the domination of nature. When we talk about our lower self, that ego, that pride, we want to prove something. And it manifests itself contrary to the nature. That Lucifer, the Moors, do you go outside yourself when you're cold? What do? You turn your thermostat from hot and cold, same way with you. And I hope you understand the metaphor and the analogy or the parable of that. In the form of what? Venus, the morning star spoken of in Revelations, which is to be given to those to overcome this physical plane. That's why most Christians mistake Lucifer is Satan. And when I say you don't know more history, you're not connecting history and vice versa. But it's just not true. It's misinformation, it's lies, and it's propaganda. And you should have an open mind when you come to this, because I'm not here for religious dogma. I'm challenging you to study and do research. So if somebody asks a question, who is Lucifer? The answer you would say, depending on who I talk to. A preacher will tell you something else. A so-called Mason under some religious dogma will tell you something else. A so-called Moor under some other dogma will tell you something else. Somebody that say they study Egyptology, which what's Egyptology, they'll tell you something else. But they won't tell you what's written and what's truthful. They'll tell you that occult means something scary. And I tell you, it's a whole history of occult books. Occult means hidden, which is the whole point of misinformation. Because most people are not enlightened or illuminated. You thinking that it's just a lower plane, man. But we must study and research what this is all about. So the occult, the Lucifer, is often referred to as a morn or the morning star. Revelation 22:16. I, Jesus, which is Yahshua, have sent my angel to give you the testimony for the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David and the bright morning star. That's what the biblical text says. You see, just as Lucifer is known as the morning star, Yahshua also called himself the bright morning star. Jesus, Lucifer, one and the same, if you read in their biblical text. And that's if you have light amongst the darkness in which we live. Man, you can be walking with your eyes wide shut. That don't mean you awaken because you're under religious dogma. Moors, if you research in the book, the reason that both Lucifer and Jesus, from their text, man, that's why in the holy name, in the scripture it says, praise my holy name. If the scripture says praise his holy name, if they were Hebrews and you call them, if you're a heritage connected to your name and you're calling them a different name, but then also we can understand language and dead languages. So you have to understand both connections and explain things from not a religious perspective, but from a scholarly perspective, but connect the dots. But you have to understand the chemical compound that is hidden within each of our DNA when we're talking about the metaphysics or the phosphorus, right? Phosphorus is essential for life, and phosphate, Moors, is a compound of our DNA, of our chemical makeup, of our RNA, of our spirit molecule, of our ATP, and almost this phosphorus or this lipids that form all cell membranes, Moors. If we connect the dots, if we connect the synchronicity, man, without phosphorus, us as humans would simply be not human because consciousness and our spiritual energy would not exist. That's through our DNA. It contains this phosphorus that we become conscious to the world and who we are in order to live in the light. In the light. Moors, we got to understand that Lucifer is really just an allegory. That's why when I say the Bible is really an allegory, parable, symbology, you must be able to interpret the symbology, the esoteric and the exoteric. It's an allegory, Moors, to describe phosphorus, which resides in our DNA. Watch. Phosphorus, Lucifer, phosphorus, P-H-O-S-P dash H-O-R-U-S equals what? Lucifer is light bringer. I'll pull up all my charts, but we got to get to the next part. In definition, you would find phosphorus, Greek, a name meaning light bringer. When I talk about language, you must connect the language for you won't get caught up in linguistic apartheid. The light bringer is the morning star. What is it? The planet Venus. In its morning appearance, another Greek name for the morning star. Phosphorus, which means dawn bringer. The Latin word corresponding to Greek phosphorus is what, Moors? And true light seekers, Lucifer, right? Just do your research. It's used in its astronomical sense, both in prose and poetry. The Latin word Lucifer, Moors, corresponding to, was used as a name for the morning star and thus appeared in the Vulgate translation of the Hebrew word, Hilo, meaning Venus as the brilliant, bright, or shining one. You can research this in the biblical text, Isaiah 14 and 12, where the Septuagint, Greek version, uses what? The other version. I'm telling you, man, it's there. Venus is the brightest morning star and is currently the focal point of the eastern dawn sky. Moors, that's why they won't tell you about the eastern star, the Daughters of American Revolution. When I tell my empress, you wear your white feather with your gold tassel, the eastern star is you. I'm telling you, I teach this science. You get connotated in the wrong stuff, man. I promise you. Black represents Saturn. Period. That's why they won't tell you about that Lord of the Rings, all that stuff. Man, it's symbology and all that, and everything. That's why the so-called Jews, they celebrate what? Saturn in Phoenician, Sabbath. Come on, man. You don't have to let nobody tell you nothing. Just be a philosopher and a studier and a student. Right? But Moors, even in the European masonry, when I show you how everything is connotated, this will be the reason why you find that all Freemason lodge face the north and south. But when you walk into the lodge room, you are symbolically what, Moors? Facing the east. That's why I want to tell you this about our empresses. This fez, all of this is about the woman. This time, if Moors don't know what these holes in this fez is, what about the navel, the umbilical cord, all this is about, man, it's no wisdom under the captor. When you put this fez or this turban under your head, you should already have 32 and 33 degrees. It takes somebody that's there or to give you all the wisdom, and you get yourself there. I'm telling you, man. But the east and all Masonic rituals are performed when facing the east. Preparation of the sun of the morning. the dawn of a new day under the what? Morning star. Right? Even in ancient times, it's said that the Sphinx was the gateway of the pyramid, and that there was an underground passage which led from the Sphinx to Cheops, the Great Pyramid. Right? You see how things it's just so much, man. The Sphinx symbolizes man. The Sphinx again symbolizes man with the mind and spirit of human, rising out of the animal desires and emotions. It is the riddle of the ages, family, and man is once more the answer. That's why we don't have to try to steal or rob the gates of heaven or paradise, because we have it in our own hands. You have the key. But the Sphinx is a symbol, is Taurus, the bull, Leo, lion, Scipio or Scorpio, the eagle, Aquarius, the man, the human head. Moors, so what I'm saying, how can Lucifer be the prince of darkness, Moors, when it has been established that Lucifer is really phosphorus, which came from a Greek name meaning light bringer? That's to me, that's insanity. The facts are, Moors, that it is not the prince of darkness or Satan. Why? Because Lucifer is really phosphorus that resides in our DNA. Once you understand this reality, Moors, that is science-based, you will then have just one of the keys of the secret of the mysteries of this world. The light within each of us, you and me, is where we find Lucifer, or that Jesus, what they want to say, or the morning star. That's why in Moorish science, it's all about us. Know thyself and know the God within. In ancient Egypt, it was said that the body is the house of God. When I talk about Africa, Africa, when I show you the lecture, Africa wasn't named after no European or no Cypriot Africanus. That's false history. That's false history. The body is the house of God. And one of the many proverbs is, man, know thyself, and thou shalt know the gods. So when we know thyself, when we teach this in Moorish science, we carry the water of Aquarius, Moors, the man, and thus become lion kings of our own dominion, which the Egyptians had represented with the figure Sphinx, Moors. In Greeks, Bodhiton, which is a mystical creature. We got to understand this science, man. We're getting so caught up because we're letting somebody else tell us what things are, and they're not from us. That's why when I tell brother, the prophet and Messiah is amongst your people. How can somebody say the name of the person that's helping you is too holy for you to say? How can somebody tell you everything about you is evil and not to research who you are in history? You let somebody tell you your black skin a curse. You let somebody tell you that biblical scripture is about some European or something like that. You let somebody tell you that Moorish history is not all through history. You let somebody tell you that Moorish science is not proven out in a Library of Congress. But the Baphomet is Moorish. It's like any monstrous enigma. Yep, I got 4 more minutes and we done. In ancient science, it's nothing more than innocent, and sometimes it's a pious hieroglyphic. That's why this book that's connotated, Eliseus Levi, in the 19th century, the mysterious origins of the legend, Baphomet Moors, have speculated upon by historians and researchers for many hundreds of years. It has been many erroneous claims that it has been made, such as the Baphomet represents Satan or evil. And it's not true, Moors. So, I'm going to help you illuminate this. And my lectures, I'll illuminate this. Behind who is this horned God? What it represents. What it represents. And the only reason why I'm doing this over, because I was asked so many times today at class to please do this lecture. Because one of the brothers wanted to know so much. And I will touch on that. I will touch on that for you. So, but the Baphomet Moors is derived from the phrase, get your pens and papers, Temp Ob Ab, T-E-M-O-H-P-A-B, which is the temple, Omnium, Homnium, Pax Abba, which is simply Latin for the father of the temple, Moors, universal peace of men. Temp Hob Ab, spelled backwards, is where we get what? Baphomet, Moors. I'm telling you, all this stuff is connotated history. This was written way before Alicia Levi written about it. If you have all the books, if you have the what is it, the coffin text, if you have the book of the coming forth by day and night, a lot of this stuff, it explains so much history that's been connotated. But the Baphomet of the Templars, whose name should be spelled Kabbalistically, when I talk about the Kabbalah, when I talk about all this science where it's talking about you, and that's why we're losing, because we think this stuff is spooky. We caught up in spookism. But when I talk about spelled Kabbalistically backwards, it's composed of 3 abbreviations, which give you the temple of Abba, the temple Amion, Hamion Paz Abba, the father of the temple universal, peace of men. You, the Moorish man, according to some. It was a monstrous head according to others, a goat-shaped demon, a sculpted casket unearthed in the ruins of ancient commandery. But I told you all of what those symbols mean. I told you, I just gave you what all those symbols mean, how it's rising up your kundalini. How you see that, what you see? You see the star on the head. What that ain't no star, David. That represents Saturn. Represent your kundalini rising. All there, Morris. Right? Right? But it was a sculpted casket unearthed in ruins in ancient commentary of the Templars. And it was observed by antiquaries, but that the Baphometic figure, it attributed to what? The goat Mendes. Right? A contra. It's bearded. I mean, as I read it, look at it. It's bearded, but with the entire body of a woman. In one hand it holds the sun, in the other the moon. What? The sun and the moon? What? How can I evil? What it says? In one hand what it holds? The sun, in the other the moon. Joined to it by chains. You got to understand the allegory. This viral head is a beautiful allegory, which attributes to thought alone. To thought alone, the first and creative cause. The head here represents mind and the female body part. The stars bound to the human form and directed by the nature of which intelligence is the head have also a sublime significance, Morris. The terrible Baphomet family is, in fact, like all monstrous enigmas of ancient science, nothing more than an innocent and even pious hieroglyph. You understand what I'm saying? So, let us declare emphatically to combat the remnants of man that Satan, as a superior personality and power, have no existence over you and me. See, this so-called devil, per se, in black magic, is the great magic agent employed from evil purposes, right? By our own will. Nothing outside ourselves. Nothing outside ourselves. The goat Mendes, or the Baphomet, whom the Templars were accused of worshiping, is a goat-headed deity, being formed of both male and female. Male and female. Male and female principle. With a caucus of Mercury. You see the Mercury? You see the Mercury or the melanin? In an opalus of its phallus. One arm points up and one arm points down, with the Latin solvet corga written on them, meaning flow and air. I hope we know what that means. This is not the image of a Christian devil, but a symbol of the ancient alchemists representing nature, and nature's God being a combination and a balance of male and female forces. Light and darkness, moisture and dryness, the very principle of Hermes, as above, so below, is symbolized by Baphomet. So if you think this symbol is evil, you've been misled. What a lot of us call, that we understand the science, a non-initiate. That's considered profane. The secret mysteries, which is nothing secret. Sacred means dear to our heart. Nothing is secret. That's why Noble Drew Law was teaching us, like, we got to get back to who we were. Right? When we talk about magic, no matter if it's white or black magic, it depends upon the ability of the adapt to control the universe life force. That's what at least Levi connotated the magical agent, or the astral light. See, Manly P, all these, they didn't come up with nothing new. This stuff was already written, and they'll tell you where they got the wisdom from. By the manipulation of the fluidic essence, something that's inside. When I talk about that secretion that runs down the skull, when you got to activate the things that's in you. The phenomena of transcending or synchronizing. But the Baphomet Moors also is a symbol of the initiation in those mysteries. Moors, I'm going to leave you with this. An idol or hieroglyph that represents the god Amun is what? Jupiter, Amen, or Amen-Ra. That's why in the biblical scripture he called himself, I am Amen. These are secrets in the scriptures. Who is the hidden one, king of the gods, and the lord of the thrones, of the visible and the invisible world, Moors? Like I said earlier, above, that meaning of Baphomet is father of the temple universe, piece of man. The father would be Amun, which is known in science as what? The temple would be your body along with your head, Moors. Man, that's why I don't have time to break all the charts down. But in Egypt history, the body is the house. When I talk about the Afrika, it's the house of God. And one of the many proverbs is, man, know thyself, and you should know thy gods. And when you know thyself and live in harmony with nature, you are now with God, or with that manifestation, or that sustainability, right? That's why you got to understand what the Amun's horn is. When I talk about your hippocampus, the king of the gods and the lord of the thrones, how we talk about it represents your brain. The Baphomet is Amun, information that all ties together, Moors. It all ties together. The Baphomet, or hidden god Amen, that sits in the middle of the brain. That is part of the temporal lobe, called the Amun's horn, or the Amun's horn. I'm talking about signs and symbols, also known as the hippocampus. In neuroanatomy, the Amun's horn is a metaphor that relates to the gods and the brain. I hope you walking with me, family. It's an image that you see today of the Baphomet is identified by the image of the ram, which is actually one of the most important gods in the history of Egyptian empire. The Egyptian Greek deity known as Amun, or Amen-Ra, or Jupiter Amun, is sometimes represented as a ram of a blue color, and sometimes as a man with the horns of a ram, or wearing a cap with two high plumes. This religion of Amen-Ra is the oldest noted in Egyptian antiquity family, with the Amen-Ra with the Amen-Ra priesthood being the most powerful clergy that Egypt had ever known. The god Amen was worshipped under the ram's horn in the east for many thousand years. The god Amen family was tended by the priests of the great Theban temple of Karnak, and also worshipped in Mendes, called the Bendiged, B-A-N-E-D-B-D-G-D, the Ba of the word Lord of Ged, or the Lord of Mendes, who was the soul of Osiris, family. And I'm going to leave because I can go on. Thebes was founded in 1500 BC, right, by a Phoenician prince named Cadmus. Research this, C-A-D-M-U-S. The meaning of Thebes, T-H-E-B-E-S, is from the word Teba, that signifies ark. The capital for their religion was located in the city of light, or what we know of as what in Egypt, Luxor. When people talk about Jesus, which is Yahshua, didn't study. That's a lazy Negro Moor. He studied all over the Mediterranean. That's why when we talk about our other texts, when we come from our Asian perspective, when we connect all the dots, people be like, "What you mean? He traveled all over." It's so much in many ancient texts that I have that I can show you, you know. But the god they were worshiping was God Amen-Ra, Jupiter Amen, and at the temple at Luxor, there are many ram sphinx that symbolize God Amen-Ra. Even on a Ptolemaic table, he is called what? The king of the upper and lower Egypt, the living spirit of Ba, the living spirit of Shu, the living spirit of Seb, the living spirit of Osiris, the spirit of spirits, the Lord of lords, the hair in the city of Tonin, Mendes. In another part of the same ancient text, more is said of him, appearing on the horizon with 4 heads, illuminating heaven and earth coming as Nile. You see how I connect all the dots when I show you Elisha is Levi? They get all the connotation from Egyptian history and African history per se, causing the earth to live and giving the air to mankind. The priesthood of Amun-Ra from Egypt were the main inheritors of this secret mystery religion that initiated very famous people, you know? And it's just what it is, man. The ram's horn, since the most ancient times, was always a sign of authority, power, and dignity. The incarnation of Amon, a Kura ram's horn, that is known today as a what? The shofar. You know what they blow, right? Was the only natural vocal instrument that the priests were permitted to use as recorded in the biblical scriptures, Moors. The Israelites and the Levites, the priests, had also used the ram's horn or the shofar. The modern Jews today confess their sins in the month of September by blowing a ram's horn to announce the ceremony which they say derived away the devil. Talk about their pen. Right? Right, family? Somebody talk to me. So as we close, man, we have to connect science and understand all perspective and remove religious dogma, remove religious feelings. We can go on and on with the Jupiter and the Amen and the Amen and the King and the Lord of Lords. We can go all on like with the myth reported as Egyptians. It's so much stuff, man. In astronomy, that Pan, when I tell you, research the Greek history, who they call this? Pan. Pan. He's the goat god. Was attacked by the monster Typhon. This is their history. He dove into the Nile. The parts above the water remained a goat, but underneath the water transformed into a fish. This is an analogy and a parable. In their books, Psychology of the Unconscious, a study of the transformation and the symbolism by Carl Gustav, we find the truth that yes, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords does have an adversary, and it appears to be Isis, who is also Typhon. That's why I say all through when you go to history, you got to see what's the oldest. Isis, the mother of God, played an evil trick with their pen. Has nothing to do with nothing outside yourself. More, when I show you everything, when I talk about that hippocampus, we talk about everything in your brain. And if you go on my page, I talk about everything pertaining to your brain and hippocampus. It's there. It's there. But like I love you all, Moors, we got to get out that scary stuff. We got to get out that spooky stuff. Remember the French. Remember, I'm going to leave you with this. Deja vu in English means already seen. And it was Plato who said that deja vu is a real memory of events that took place in a previous existence that proved the theory of a reincarnation. See, this is not their pen. Plato held in his belief that education was not new learned from information, but a real memory of events that took place in a previous life. So when you research Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates, all their wisdom came from somewhere else. I proved this from history, from peer-reviewed research. Platonic stuff, epistemology, holds the knowledge is innate. So the learning is the development of ideas. Thus, when something is learned, it is actually just recalled. The goal of recollecting is to get back to true knowledge. And that's what I'm doing. I'm not talking about nothing new. I'm trying to get us back to something. I'm trying to get us to get away from all spookism, Moors. All through history, when I talk about Moorish science, when I talk about this Moorish masonry, it's all in the book. It's all in the book, Moors. Everything is written. Everything is written, man. Watch this. Let me show you something before we leave. Let me get my Moorish Quran, and I'm gonna show my brothers or something, and I'm done because I got a couple other people that's coming by. We got some items to make. Chapter 5 in your Moorish Quran, Moors. And then I'm going to show you in the Hermetic science, connotated as Hermetic or Kabbalah. I'm going to show you where it's in science. If you're more, it's here. Watch this. Chapter 5. I'm going to start at verse 12 in our Moorish Quran. This is the thing what people be doing. This Moorish Quran, it talks about Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And Noble Drew Ali he only took us a certain way. That's why he said, as far as scholars to take it today. If anybody distant things, they're distant the connection. All this Moorish Quran, it talks about certain things. What it talks about, death and burial of Elizabeth, Matthew's lessons, the mystery of death. It talks about the East, Jesus' journey, life and works of Jesus, the friendship of Jesus and Lamech. Jesus explains to Lamech the meaning of the truth. Jesus reveals to the people of their sinful ways. Jesus attends a feast in Bihar, and here he taught human equality. Jesus spake on unity of Allah and man to the Hindus. Jesus and Barada together. What I'm saying, this whole book talk about Jesus. And I hear Moors dissing something because they're not talking about the essence, Moors. If a Moor, this book ain't written in no code. So let's dig. I'm going to show you. Chapter 5, the Moorish Quran, verse 12. We're talking about our Moorish masonry. One day, as he was bringing forth the tools for work, he said, "These tools remind me of the ones we handle in our workshop of the mind, where the things are made of thought and where we build up character. We use the square to measure all our lines to straighten out the crooked places of the way and make the corners of our conduct square. We use the compass to draw the circles around our passions and desires to keep them in the bounds of righteousness. We use the axe to cut away the knotty, useless, and ungainly parts and make the character symmetrical, standing straight up. I ain't under no oath. That's why I teach the science. Can't nobody shut me down doing nothing. We use the hammer to drive home the truth and pound it until it is part of our everyday. We use the plane to smooth the rough, uneven surface of joint and block and board that go to build the temple for the truth. The chisel, line, the plummet, and the saw all have their uses in the workshop of the mind. And then this ladder, with its trinity of step, faith, hope, and love. On it we climb up to the dome of purity and life. That's that 12-step ladder. When people just talk about some 12 disciples, I say, man, that's the 12 steps to perfection. In alcoholism, what? The 12 steps to recovery. In astrology, every constellation has 12 deacons. I hope you follow me, man. And on the 12-step ladder, we ascend until we reach the pinnacle of that which life is spent to build the temple of the perfected man. Now watch this, and as I close, I'm finna get in our adapt language, the committed and adapt manual, and use of our carpenter tools, reconstruction, the ancient and most exalted grand Ka, and Ba of Allah. Then I tell you, Moorish, you got they holding it back from you. I have all the adapt manuals. I have everything. This ain't just running to no court. It's perfecting yourself. Once you perfect yourself, you won. You found the keys. It's a lot that's already done. So listen to this. Here we go. From our Committed and Adapt manual. The tools remind me of ones we handle in the workshop of the mind, where the things are made of thought, where we build up character. Just read it, didn't I? The square to measure out our lines. The compass, same thing. Same thing. The Osorian Metaphorian. I can break all this down, but we don't have time. That's why I say, Moors, if you understand the 7 Hermetic principles, Moors, then we understand principle. And that's what we operate on. You got to understand the 7 Hermetic principles. The principles of truth are 7. He who knows these understandingly possessed the master key, before whose touch all the doors of the temple fly open. The 7 Hermetic principles upon which the entire Hermetic philosophy is based. Principle of mentalism, principle of correspondence, principle of vibration, principle of polarity, principle of rhythm, and the principle of cause and effect. I'm not going to go over all of those. I got 2 more minutes. My brother please explain that brotherhood. I'll explain that. I'm going to explain a little bit from the mystery of the silent brotherhood of the East. When brothers, they don't connect things, right? And I'm going to show you in chapter 14, all the way down, Jesus, which is Yahshua, received the mystic name and number and passes the first adapt chamber. And you can read it for yourself. This is what should be, this stuff be taught. But Moors don't want to teach it. Jesus received the mystic name and number and passed the first brotherhood test. The master took down from the wall a scroll on which was written down the number and the name of every attribute, character, and he said, the circle is the symbol of the perfect man, And the 7 is the number of the perfect man. The Logos is the perfect word, that which creates, that which destroys, and that which saves. Logos is Greek. So you see how all over they connect in dots. We're talking about metaphysics. The Hebrew master is the Logos of the Holy One. That's why if you're more, I tell you, we respect all the laws and the prophets. Our diet is the Hebrew diet from the biblical diet. The Hebrew master is the Logos of the Holy One, the circle of human race, the 7 of time. And in the record book, the scribe wrote down the Logos, circle 7. The Logos, circle 7. The Logos, circle 7. The Logos, circle 7. And thus was Jesus, Yahshua known. The master said, the Logos will give heed to what I say. No man can enter into light till he has found himself. Go forth and search till you have found your soul and then return. The guide led Jesus, which is Yahshua, to a room in which the light was faint and mellow like the light of early dawn. The chamber walls were marked with mystic signs, with hieroglyphs and sacred texts. And in the chamber, Jesus, which is Yahshua, found himself alone where he remained for many days. He read the sacred text, thought out the meanings of the hieroglyphs, and sought the importance of the master's charge to find himself. And a revelation came. He got acquainted with his soul. He found himself. Then he was not alone. Now you see how I'm not going to go all over it. I'm just connecting dots. We got to study, man. We got to connect the dots. We got to get out of ego. We got to stop letting people connotate us. We got to stop letting people tell us Moors is some Islam. No, that has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with that. And it's just history, man. More science is American Islam. Has nothing to do outside yourself. Man, I'll leave you with this. Let me find Islam for Dummies. And it's not coming from no perspective. Watch this. And I'm going to leave you. I'm not going to break Islam for Dummies, a simple book, just like Computer for Dummies. Watch this, Morris. I mean, the stuff, they put it right in your face. I mean, it's there to research. Watch. Let me see. I think it's page 2. Yep. All right, 248, right? I'm on page 248 in Islam for Dummies. Listen to this. So, in chapter 15, if you can see what that says, it says Islam in America, not Islam in the so-called Middle East, nothing like that. I ain't talking about that. Who it got highlighted that brought Islam to America? Noble Drew Ali. Noble Drew Ali, right? We can see that clearly. All right. So, let's go to 245. What's in here? Islam for Dummies, who? Noble Drew Ali. Let's see what it says. Okay. The Moorish Science Temple of America is the first explicitly Islamic movement in the United States. Follow me. Timothy Drew, the founder, was born in 1886. We should know that. Blah, blah, blah. They say little is known, but I'll break down all the history. We know who we come from, all the stuff. So, blah, blah, blah. They trying to say, did he travel from Egypt to Morocco? Yes, blah, blah, blah. We know all that. But what's certain is that by 1913, he was in the north. He changed his name to Noble Drew Ali and founded the Moorish Science Temple in New York, New Jersey. Noble Drew Ali combined elements from a number of different sources. The Pan-Arabic, Christianity, Islam, Masonry. It's just facts. When I talk about our Rosicrucian manuals, I have them all. I can't pull everything out, but we connect the stuff. When I talk about Zoroastrianism, now before so-called Christianity and Al-Islam, Islamic elements included Noble Drew Ali's thought or his claim to be the last of the prophets of Allah and his holy Quran, the Circle 7 Quran, composed in 1927. Listen, Ali's 64-page holy Quran bore little resemblance to the Islamic Quran. You hear me? It contains significant elements from the Bible, the apocryphal Jesus, right? We just have to tell the truth, man. It's there. It's certain things that you have to there. The 18 missing years is there. But this is certain things we have to understand. The apocryphal Jesus Gospels and our Rosicrucian manual, which is forms of Moorish masonry. The text in addition to material from the Quran. Noble Ali taught that African Americans were Asiatics who could trace their ancestry back to Morocco and beyond that to Jesus. What? And beyond that to Jesus. And beyond that to Jesus. Which is, I'm telling you, man, it's a connection. The African Americans, per se, should abandon their slave identity and religion and reclaim their heritage. Well, this is nothing new. Converts generally drop their slave name, that's what they say, but we ain't going all in there. But that's what we talk about, American Islam, Moors. Understand who you are. Understand history. And I love you all. Love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, health, and wealth. Oh, my brother said, highlight my books. Oh, okay, here I go. My books. If anybody interested in my books that we gathered and compiled, you hit me up on there. I'm not going to share information because I've been getting wrong. People just, messaging me. I used to give out our office number, so I'm not going to give our office number out anymore. So if you're interested, just direct message me and I'll show you how to order our books. I say in another couple months, our book's going to be available on Amazon and Barnes & Nobles. But we have the interpretation of the divine creed of Moorish Islam. That's what brothers should understand. We have our I Am Royalty coloring book for children. The Essence of Chemical Element of Moorish Archival. Moorish Americans Light of Ali and the Moorish Adapt Study Guide. The House of Ali Mysticism. The Egyptian Adapt Prophet and Angel. Sufism and the Triple Roles of the Adapt Chamber, featuring the Comedian and Adapt Manual and the use of our carpenter tools. More should have this science. Delectable vegan treats. How we cook healthy because we like to eat. You are what you eat. Look good and feel good. Our vegan cookbook. Our healthy eating and living. How we show you how to blend different herbs and spices for smoothies and things. And I show you workout routines. How to build muscle and burn fat. Scholars who debunk Eurocentric propaganda. And finally, the 14 famous Asiatic scientists in history. We create our own books, man, for we can leave a mark on Earth. If anybody interested in them, direct message me. I'll show you how to order them. It's real simple, man. Everything's tax exempt. I love you all. Love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, health, and wealth. Peace.